this one's for Ben. The Local Government Act does not mention a transit development strategy. The official community plan is mentioned 48 times because it's a document that people use to make their purchasing decisions. Why do you think Burquitlam is using a transit development strategy and ignoring the official community plan? Do you think this is acceptable?
Thank you, Danny. As president of the Oakdale Neighborhood Association, right in this area, we were right out front and center on this transit development strategy issue. We insisted that before a transit development strategy be accepted, which essentially allows for more high density in the Burquitlam region, before that was accepted, before that was approved, that we receive an official community plan. In our minds, this was essentially an end run around creating an official community plan. Transit development strategy allows for higher density without a plan in place. I find this absolutely unacceptable. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Ben, same question.
Ideally, if community concerns were addressed properly, that would be the most ideal way of dealing with this kind of situation. But I do believe that by having mutual respect for different jurisdictions and working together, we can ameliorate harmful effects that may be brought about by this plan. And that's my position.
Thank you, Dan. Harry, same question. Do you want me to read it again? Okay. The Local Government Act does not mention a transit development strategy. The official community plan is mentioned 48 times because it's a document that people use to make their purchasing decisions. Why do you think Burquitlam is using a transit development strategy and ignoring the official community plan? Do you think this is acceptable?
So actually it comes back to the Livable Region Strategic Plan, which is kind of a Metro Vancouver plan where different cities and different areas throughout Metro Vancouver have accepted the responsibility of having increased density. And in response for accepting that increased density, they have supposed to have guaranteed that we would have transportation improvements. The problem has been is that when Burquitlam has accepted that, and it's gone ahead with the official community plan and having to have development, the Metro Vancouver and Translink has not come forward on their part of the bargain. So now what we have to do as a city is we have to say, that's it. You either come forward, you either get the transportation improvements, the bus improvements that you guaranteed us, or we're not going to continue with this.
Thank you, Barry. Okay, next question. This is for Doug. What is your position on controlling expenses on cities' administrative salaries? It is already too high compared to any private sector salaries.
It was a big shock to everyone. I understand it was a big shock to me when I read in the paper about a 14% increase to our city managers. I wished I had a 14% increase, and I'll bet you all did too. There's so many people I run into on fixed incomes, and I've been out knocking on the door, and a lot of people have been appalled by that. I think council needs to look at the optics of this, and we have to take this into consideration when we're talking about salaries for our staff.
Thank you, Doug. Kevin, can you answer the same question?
As Doug just mentioned, I think everyone's a bit appalled by the 14% increase that managers got. The difficulty is trying to ring that bell, isn't it? It's hard to go back to the manager and say, well, that was kind of high, wasn't it? We'll take that percentage back. We just can't do that, can we? So what I think we need to do is start looking at how we can start realigning jobs to maybe cut down some of these management jobs. And therefore, hopefully through retirement or possibly buyouts, we can lose some of those jobs because we're not going to get that 14% back. That's done. That bell's been rung. So I guess the best way is to try to do some efficiencies to reduce the number of management we have.
Thank you, Kevin. Terry, same question? Do you want me to read it over?
Sure.
Okay. What is your position on controlling expenses on cities' administrative salaries? It's already too high compared to any private sector salaries.
I agree that expenses need to be, all budget items have to be analyzed and looked at for efficiencies. I expect my local government to run as efficiently as my household. However, I'm going to come from this from a different angle. I have a business degree, I study human resources. I just worked for 17 years in human resources in a large public utility. You have to pay good people money to attract them and keep them. Turnover is expensive, morale goes down when you're constantly recruiting. We discovered there that we were losing good people because we weren't paying above the median. And from what I understand, we're talking about our city manager here, and from what I understand, he is so skilled that he's actually saved us tens and tens of millions of dollars. So is it worth paying him to save us money? Yes, in my opinion.
Okay, this one is for, hang on. I missed Chris. It should be Chris. Sorry. Chris, this is for you. What is your position on 14% salary increase for city managers and deputy manager?
I think it's too high. Do you want to ask a different question? Maybe, or if we just...
Why are people allowed to run for civic office when they are not a resident of that city? One of the candidates does not live in Burquitlam. If he is elected, how is he going to serve the people when he's not living here?
I mean, I think the ideal situation would be you would live in your community. And if you don't live in your community, at the very least, I would hope that you would work in your community. Because I think if you work in the community, you understand what a lot of the issues are. Your employees most likely live in the community, so they also can provide feedback. But I have to be 100% honest, I haven't given this a lot of thought. I think ideally I would prefer people to live in the community and at the very least work in the community.
Thank you, Chris. Vincent?
I also agree with Chris, and I think if you want to run for public service, you have to know the issue, know the local thing. So I believe that everything to your food source and get as much knowledge so you can do a better service for the people who live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Kurt?
Well, I think the outside view of looking into Burquitlam might actually give them a better advantage. We see Burquitlam as this great community, and we've got our issues that we deal with. But coming from outside the community, you might actually have a better advantage of not being swayed by living in Burquitlam and being taxed by Burquitlam. I'm currently the Surrey Board of Trade's representative for my company in Surrey, so I bring a good perspective to the Surrey Board of Trade. But from Burquitlam's point of view, I always try and do that way. So I don't have an issue with an outside person running for Burquitlam Council.
Great, thank you. Okay, next question. Bonita? We're looking forward to having a community center in this area. Where would you put it?
Well, I was fortunate enough to attend the meeting for the presentation by the YMCA last week, or the week before. It's been a busy couple of weeks, but I think it was last week. And that hasn't been determined yet. And there is the option for the community to have their input of where they would like it to be. I know there is some concerns about some large areas of green space in Burquitlam where the residents do not want it to go. And we really respect that. And I think there's a process already started that the community is going to tell us where they'd like it to go.
Great, thank you. Michael?
This is an interesting question. Community center in this area. From what I understand, there's not a whole lot of green space available for a community center. what I do understand is the YMCA does want to potentially put a community center in here. So I do support that idea of a YMCA community center. It's good because what we'll get is we'll get a second party that's going to basically fund most of the cost of the community center, hopefully, and folks here will get to enjoy it. As for where it should be placed, I think it should be placed somewhere where most folks have an opportunity to get there quite easily, so possibly in a transit route of some sort, either bus or SkyTrain. And it should have the amenities that people really need, be it indoor and outdoor if possible. And quite frankly, it should be a lower enough cost that people can afford to use it.
Great. Ben?
Thanks, Annie. Community center in Burquitlam. What a terrific idea. My group, the Oakdale Neighborhood Association, was actually behind the scenes lobbying for amenities for this region long before this whole YMCA idea ever came about. The problem we had was that developers were spending millions in our region. The city was collecting revenue streams from these developers, but that money was getting spent in town center. That didn't make any sense to us. We felt that as the victims, for lack of a better word, of the high density around there, we should benefit from that revenue. So we've got something called community amenity contributions that is a revenue stream from developers that actually is earmarked for a community center in this area. Thank you.
Let me click on that.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, next question. We're starting with Kevin. Oh, it's for Kevin. This is for Kevin. Your very own question. Okay. One of the students asked, since you're my math teacher, how will you teach us if you get elected?
Well, obviously I will do YouTube videos from midnight to 2 a.m. and just post them in the classroom and say, you'll be fine. No, being a counselor is not a full-time job. I think most of you are aware of that. So for the current semester that I'm teaching in, I'd be juggling both things, which I can handle. I handle having a very busy life. I actually have a second job where we're renovating houses, so that's not a big deal. If I decide it becomes too much, the school district is very flexible, and I can take a leave of absence from the school district for up to 4 years if need be. So finish the semester off and decide where I'm at from there.
So we're going to go back to... Oh. All right. This is for Tara Towner and Kevin Starr. Why do you want to run for election?
Why am I running for council? I am very passionate about my city. Years ago, when my kids were in kindergarten, I started on the PAC, and I had a light bulb moment that one person and or a small group of people can make a difference. And just from then, I've been involved in anything and everything that I possibly could. The district PAC executive, Operation Red Nose campaigns, lots of volunteering for Share, Pink Shirt Day, on the sports council currently with the city. I've been blessed with a lot of energy, and I've always tried to direct my energy to positive things. And it just sort of came up to women vacated council. I'm an engaged woman. I have a brain on my head, passion for the city. The opportunity arose. Here I am.
Thank you. Kevin?
Another question, I'm lucky. I used to run a rugby club, the local club, which was Pokemon, now it's called United Rugby. I've managed cherry orchards, used to be a sales rep. I have a good understanding how business works. I have a degree in mathematics with a minor in business administration. I think I have a good mind for things, and I think I can make a positive influence in our city. And I thought this might be a nice positive change for me and positive change for our city. So why not give it a go? I know that I'm the type of person that's hard working, so I'm not doing anything that's going to destroy our city, that's for sure. So I think it'll be a nice, fresh eyes on the city, and hopefully make some positive changes that we're all looking forward to seeing. Thanks.
Thanks. This one is for Kurt Zaporozan. What is your primary motivation for running?
My primary motivation for running years ago when the municipal elections took place, I saw a council elected in that was pro-residential and not very pro-business. Business needs to attract employment into our city so people can live, work, and play in our city. And I want to be on council because I'm a business-oriented person. I've been in the private sector all my working life, and I see how business affects communities. I've lived here in Burquitlam, worked in Surrey, worked in Alberta, and all private businesses affect how your communities are run. So that's why I'm here running for Burquitlam Council.
Thank you, Kurt. This one is for Chris Wilson. What would be the single most valuable skill you would bring to council?
The single most valuable skill. Something here. That wasn't a trick to get more time. Single most valuable skill I would bring is I believe I'm a very good listener. In all the work I've done, the organizations that I volunteer for, work for, people would characterize me as a good leader, but also as a good listener. And I think a big part of council's job is to listen to people, and we've heard tonight just how frustrated people are because they don't feel like they have been listened to. And so I think for me, that's one of my strongest points, and I think it's probably the most important part in council.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, this one is for Ben Kim. Does Coquitlam use its casino funds wisely? What could they do better? Sure.
Casino revenues are to be used for community facilities, and I used to go when we were building a public housing project in another community. We applied to community funding, casino funding, and we received a lot of funding by sending our volunteers to casino as a volunteer sellers of lottery tickets and things like that. I think that funds should be used in building more community services, establishing services that communities need.
Thanks, Ben. Barry, does Burquitlam use its casino funds wisely? What could they do better?
So actually, the funds, I think it's about $10 million a year. Burquitlam has discretionary use of this, and it's changed throughout the years of whether or not it went to capital or if it went into sports and those types of industries. I don't believe, the one thing I don't believe that the casino fund should be used for is for operating capital, because you get to start to rely on operating capital, and then if the funds for the casino drop, then you're scrambling to find the operating capital. I think it's a very good thing to use, for instance, community centers, or for providing sports facilities or recreation facilities. Anything that's a capital investment is the way that the funds should be used for, definitely not operating.
Thanks, Barry. Doug, same question?
Well, Barry just stole my thunder on that one, because the casino funds that we get in there are a bonus to us, and we have to use them for capital funds. We have to use them for building facilities. We have to build them or use them for building our infrastructure, things like that. We can't use them for operating costs because it's not finite. We can't get used to using them to pay for operating costs, because if that dried up, then we would have to raise taxes to meet that shortfall there. So using them now, getting those funds back to the community, back to community groups is very important, as well as the capital costs. I think that money from the casino is good, found money for our groups and our organizations.